Hi, I'm Denise.
And I'm Paul.
And we are going to show you how to quickly can tomato sauce. It's about that time that your tomatoes are turning red, and we have a really quick way of doing it because we hear a lot of people complaining that it takes hours upon hours to do it, when really it doesn't have to take, the actual work involved doesn't have to take much longer than I would say about an hour.
Yeah, maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, some waiting time, but well, a lot of waiting time, but that's okay. The actual work is not. So we're going to just show you around our garden a little bit first and pick a couple more vegetables to be in our pasta sauce, and then we'll show what you do. So these are what we started with. This will take you about 10 minutes or so to get together. We just picked a bunch of our tomatoes. We washed them off, put them in the basket. We brought our blender out here. You're going to want to use a really, really strong blender, like either a Blendtec or a Vitamix. Ninjas are okay. It's just going to be a little bit chunkier, and you might have some problems with the skin because we do not take our skin off, or we don't take the seeds out either when we're making our sauce, because we don't need to, because they grind up so small. Then you're also going to need a big stock pot, some spices that you want to add, and then your big canning pot. If you don't have one of those, a big stock pot will work just fine, but you'll need to use less. You'll be able to can less jars. And then of course you'll need your jars, and we'll get those after we're done making our sauce. So come on to the garden. So the first thing I'm going to cut is, we have a lot of, this is our herb garden. We have a lot of oregano here, and this is our lemon balm. We have some cilantro, mint, basil in the back. So I'm going to add some fresh oregano. I have some basil that is already dried, and I'm going to use that instead because our basil isn't doing so great just yet. So just gonna, we'll have to take the mint out, but we'll use about that much. Mint, we'll put some in our drink later. I also want to grab a couple bell peppers. We have a couple that are pretty good size now, so we'll use this one. That one's a little small, so we'll have to look at our other ones that we have. We're going to also use a green sweet pepper. This is an heirloom variety. You want to make sure you're using sweet peppers when it comes to pasta sauce. You don't want a spicy pasta sauce. If you do, maybe you want to add that right before you use it. And we'll go ahead and add a red pepper in too, because this one's really sweet. You
may want to mention about our tomatoes and how we got a lot of blight this year.
Oh yeah, this is one section of our tomatoes. These are called Brandywine, which is what we're going to be using to make our sauce. They're very, very meaty, as you'll see. They're great for a sauce. Makes it really thick. You don't have to boil it down too much, as you'll see when we make it. We got a huge problem with blight this year, and unfortunately we made the mistake of kind of letting it go a little bit too far. If you ever have a problem with blight, if you clip any of the stems that are showing it right at the beginning, and then every week take hydrogen peroxide mixed with water, it's 1 cup to 1 gallon, and spray it on, it should keep it at bay. We did a pretty good job of taking control of it, but it was a little bit too late, so we lost a lot of our tomato plant. Okay, we're also going to use a yellow sweet pepper, and grab a couple of these. And I think I'm going to use, since we're kind of running low on the green sweet, we're going to go ahead and throw a purple one in there. These are our pear tomatoes, and this is, in this box, this is one plant. It's a monster. It's just so monstrous. So if you want something that yields a ton of small tomatoes that you can use just for snacking, this is a great, great tomato plant. We didn't even plant these this year. These came up from our last year's seeds. Very, very hardy, and they're heirloom. They're not very sweet. They're extremely mild taste, but you know, they work for tomatoes. Okay, so we have everything we need. We have our peppers, huge amount of tomatoes. Oregano, we have to take the leaves off, but I'm going to do that while he's cutting up the tomatoes. A couple onions, a little bit of olive oil, and then again some seasoning that we'll go over when we actually pour the tomato sauce and season it. Paul's going to be cutting the tomatoes today because I'm allergic to them, and I will start itching and breaking out. So our tomatoes, the brandy wine, this is a couple examples. They're huge. They're very, very heavy. But the one thing that we notice is they sometimes get these, brown hard spots, and we're thinking it's probably because the moisture in the ground fluctuated. Like sometimes we get a ton of rain and we'd have a couple days of dry, and we wouldn't be consistently watering. So you want to consistently water, especially when you're growing these, but there's still a ton of really good meaty parts on these. So he's just going to cut off the bad parts, throw them in the blender, and we'll show you how that goes. Okay, so what Paul did is he just took about, what, 3 or 4 tomatoes?
Yeah, I think it was 3.
3 huge tomatoes, cut out just the tops and any of these brown pieces that are in there. And while he was doing that, I just took some of our oregano, and a really easy way to get the leaves off the oregano is you just hold one of the stems and you just pull down and you grab the leaves off. And all we're going to do is blend these up. It's going to get really loud here for a minute, but we do want to show you how quick and easy this is, so bear with us with the noise. And that's about it. Now we will put it on high to get all those, because we see a couple seeds in here, so we want to make sure all those seeds are crushed up really good and the skin is crushed up really good. So we'll turn it on high for about 30 seconds and then we'll throw it in our stock pot. And once this is full, that's when we'll cook it on our grill, and we'll be back to show you that. Okay, so this is the tomato sauce. All that's in it right now is tomatoes and some fresh oregano. So we put it on high for about a minute or two until you can't see any more seeds going through. Those are the things that take the longest to grind up, but you don't want them in your tomato sauce. It doesn't taste good. It's a very weird consistency. So make sure that you're using a really, really good blender, or take the seeds out before you throw them in the blender, which is a little bit more time consuming. Okay, so with this batch, this is our second batch in the blender, and we are adding peppers to it. And then the third batch, we'll add onions to it. And right now, our stock pot is about 1/4 of the way full, so it's probably going to be about 4 blenderfuls. Okay, so now we're on our third blenderful. We're getting to the end of our tomatoes, probably have 1.5 more blenderfuls just of tomatoes, but then we're adding the onions, so a couple more peppers, and then we'll add our spices. Okay, so we have our last batch, which is the blender behind you, which we also put in a whole head of garlic, and we put the rest of the peppers, rest of the tomatoes, and a little bit more oregano. Now the recipe for this tomato sauce, normally I don't really measure anything. I just kind of throw everything together and cook it, and it always comes out good. But for you, I am going to, I've been measuring some things out, I'm writing it down, and it's going to be back on our blog, on our website. So check out the link below, which will take you to the recipe for this particular tomato sauce. Now remember, this is a very basic recipe, so it can be used for anything. I throw this into chili, I throw this into taco soup, but I also will add some chunky tomatoes and peppers and onions when I want to use it as a pasta sauce. So the other thing I'm going to be putting in here, we're going to add in our last bit of tomatoes and onions and peppers and garlic. And our stock pot is full. This is olive oil, pure olive oil. You don't want to use extra virgin, you want to use pure olive oil for this. Just going to put a couple tablespoons in. And then we also want to add just a little bit more acid. Because we're water bath canning, you want to make sure you have enough acid. And even though tomatoes are very, very high acid, I'm just going to add in a couple more tablespoons of lemon juice, just for some added security there. that. And that will not really add any kind of flavor to it. We get this at Costco, and it's actually sold online too. It's 100% organic, fresh squeezed lemon juice. It's excellent. Use it for lemonade, use it for canning, use it for cooking, anything. It's excellent. Then just to sweeten it up a little bit, even though tomatoes, you know, they have a decent sugar content to them, we're going to just add a little bit of organic sugar. Just a few tablespoons. Again, this recipe is on our website. The next thing we're going to use is authentic northern Italian seasoning, again, Costco. This is a nice flavor with some mushrooms and Italian seasonings, not too strong. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of this. What do you think, 1 or 2?
2.
And we use sea salt. We add about 2 tablespoons of sea salt.
We can get it out.
I don't know, maybe I should just do 1. No, we'll do 2. Just under 2. You don't want to, you can always add salt. So I hate to add too much salt and then you can't take it out. And then I also get organic basil. Again, I believe I bought this from Costco, but this is McCormick, so you could find it online, and it's really not a bad price. And it lasts for a really long time. Just 1 tablespoon of this since we put oregano in it, and we put that Italian seasoning. Okay, now we're ready to get it on the grill. We're using our outdoor grill because we have an electric stove, and if you have one of these, you know how slow they are to heat up. So we're using our gas grill outside. This is the perfect time to do it, and we'll just put it on the side burner, and we'll boil it down, simmer it for about 2 to 3 hours until it boils down to the thickness that we want. And again, remember, you don't have to have it super thick because you can add tomato paste later to it. You can add some chunky tomatoes and peppers and onions if you're using it as a chunky sauce. So you're going to boil it down about 1/4 of the way. So right now we're at full. We're going to be boiling it down to about 3/4 full. So we'll show you what it looks like when we get there. Now, it might not seem like we used a whole lot of seasonings for this, but remember, when it boils down, it's getting more concentrated. And you can always add, like I said, right before you are ready to turn off your heat, you're going to want to taste a little bit, because that's pretty much what it's going to taste like when you use it down the road in the middle of winter, and you're going to have fresh tomato sauce from your garden. So these are just preliminary seasonings, and then you can always add something to it once it boils down a little bit. Now when you are cooking this, you can, I would suggest, especially if you're cooking outside like us, put a lid on it, but don't have it closed all the way. Have a little bit of room for the steam to escape, because that's what's going to be happening, is it's going to be boiling the water off. So you want to have somewhere for it to escape. If you close the lid all the way, you're not going to boil it down at all. It's just going to cook, and it's going to, you know, steam will rise to the lid and it'll come back down, or it might start boiling over. So you want to keep it so that it's at a simmer. You'll turn it on high at first, not spill it like I did, and once it starts boiling, you're going to want to turn it down to low, so it just does a very, very soft simmer. And we'll see you back here in a few hours. Alright, so it's been about 3 hours. Here's our sauce. Has gone from the top, it's almost to the top, to, you know, about a quarter of the way down. This is about the thickness of it. This is what I like because I can use this for anything, and you can always thicken it up with some tomato paste or, like I said earlier, chunky tomatoes, onions, things like that. So now what we did is we washed out our quart size jars. We have 7 ready. Not sure exactly how many we're going to get. And then because we were waiting for a little bit, we filled them with hot water. When you're filling your glass jars with hot sauce, you're going to want to make sure that they're hot too. So right before I fill them, I'll just dump them out in the garden and then fill them. A couple of things you're going to want: funnel, makes things way easier when you're pouring your sauce into it. This is the jar grabber to grab the jars out of the hot water there. And then we also have our little magnet, and this is to grab our tops, our lids, while they're in the hot water. You're going to want to put your lids in the hot water for a little bit so that that seal softens a little bit and it makes a better seal around the jar. So I also have a couple paper towels handy because you're going to want to wipe the rims of the jars before you put the lids on. So this is our big water bath canner. It's filled with water to about here, and we have it on high right now. We're waiting it to start boiling, but while we're waiting, we'll go ahead and fill our jars. I'll show you how I fill one, then we're going to pause it. I don't think you want us to show you filling every single jar, but then we'll show you at the end. So all I'm going to do is take my jar, hot water. So actually, if you pour hot water on weeds, if it's boiling, it'll kill the weed. Put your little funnel in, take your ladle, and you just fill it. You're going to want to fill it right to about this rim right here. And normally I would go and continue filling all of them, but just to show you, then I take a paper towel and I just wipe around, make sure you don't touch it like I just did because it's really hot. Wipe right around the top there. Take your magnet, get a lid, stick it on, grab a rim, and you just twist it down to hand tight, not super tight. And then that one's ready to go into the water bath as soon as it gets hot enough. So we'll be back when we're all done. Alright, so out of that pot, we got 5 quarts of pasta sauce or tomato sauce. So that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Now all we're going to do is, as soon as this starts boiling, we're going to lower them in, and they'll sit in there for about 30 minutes. And again, the recipe for this is all on our website with the link below. And it'll tell you exactly how long to also put them in the water. Okay, so our water is pretty much boiling now. So all we're going to do is take our jars and gently place them inside here. If you're using a stock pot, you're still going to want to get one of these, because then you're able to lift them and put them in there. With the stock pot, you're not going to have the metal thing that we have here to help us. So I always start with putting one in the center and then putting one on either side of them. I have read that you're not supposed to let them touch. We've had them touched. It hasn't been really a big number. Never anything's happened. And then just going to want them on either side. Sticking. And then what you're going to do now, this is the part where it's probably going to overflow a little bit, and that's okay. Might burn out our gas, but hopefully not. So then you just lift it into there very carefully. There it went out. But then you have to wait before you start timing it, and this actually takes 40 to 45 minutes. Before you start timing it, you have to make sure that the water is back to boiling again. And that probably is going to take another 15 minutes or so. So another waiting time. But once it's done, turn off the heat. I would wait like 5 minutes. You'll take them out and you'll let them sit without touching. And then if you're close enough, you hear them ping, and that means that they have sealed. If you don't hear them ping, just the next morning, make sure that you see a little indentation in the lids. And we'll show you when we're done. Alright, so we've taken out 4 of the jars. This is our last jar we're taking out. And all you do is you grip the top of the jar with your jar, I don't know what they're called, and you pull it out. And then you want to let them sit, if you're inside on a counter with a towel below it, just because they're wet from the water bath and they're really, really, really hot. So then you want to just let them sit overnight so they can cool all the way down, and then you can store them. As you can see, ours are already popped in, so then you know that they're sealed and they're ready to be stored once they cool down all the way. And that's it. Next month we will be canning apples, and we'll show you how we do those. And salsa, probably in a couple weeks. Thanks for joining us.